Michigan. Michigan's Michigan. Watching them every Saturday since I've been a kid.
Okay.
They won the Joe Moore Award this year, best offensive line in the country. This is a big deal.
All right, welcome in. Hope you're having a great Friday. That was 23 O-lineman Chris Terek on Rivals with Clint Cosgrove. It is Friday the 13th. We're ready to go, get things underway here on the Maize and Blue Review. Michigan recruiting live here today. We're here weekdays at 1 o'clock. We're a part of Rivals, talking about the latest in Michigan. And this time of year, that means recruiting. And it's great to have on the recruiting editor from the Maize and Blue Review, and that is Zach Libby. Zach, good to see you. What's going on?
Not much, Dennis. Getting settled back in after a long week of trips, so it's nice to be home for a little bit.
Yeah, for people that don't know, you're out and checking out high school prospects that might be interested in Michigan. So you've been logging a lot of miles, and you've been zigzagging across the country. Well, I follow you because periodically you're throwing stories up of the Maize and Blue Review on the Den, and then you're talking about them, and then via Twitter, it's kind of like we're able to follow you, wake up, and say, "Oh, hey, Zach's in Chicago." So it's kind of cool just sitting back and watching you. But yeah, you've been on the move.
Yeah, I think it's part of what I think as a recruiting writer or reporter that I think it's imperative that you go out and actually see these guys, put a face to the person who's actually writing these articles. It's good to establish relationships and establish connections to hot areas of Michigan where Michigan recruits, and it's good to always get that inside info because you're taking your time out and seeing these guys in action. I think you can only do so much over the phone, and like I said, it's always good to put a face to the byline, and always extending your hand to show your appreciation, and they show it back. So it's really nice.
You never know who you're going to be standing by. They've got their binoculars, they got a whistle, they got a stopwatch, and then the next thing you know, they're telling you about a kid that Michigan fans should be interested in. So I like that. We've got a lot of Michigan to talk about, a lot of recruiting that we are going to get to. Not a big surprise for anybody, but before we go any further, let me tell you about our new sponsor, and that is Manscaped. Folks, I'm Dennis Fithian, and support for the Maize and Blue Review is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code TMBR at manscaped.com. And if you've ever heard someone ask if the curtains match the rug, well, in this broadcaster's case, I can tell you, yes, they do. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code TMBR at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the code TMBR. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. All right, we are off and running here, ready to talk a little about recruiting. I put some pictures up. Doesn't mean that anything. It's just random photos that I have selected that I've put on the YouTube site. But let's just follow with your week here, Zach. You have been off and running around the country, as we talked about. You went down to Detroit first. Cass Tech has they always seem like they have a bunch of different players. I see a picture here. I think I recognize some of those guys from being technicians here. What did you think of your time down seeing Cass Tech?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Cass Tech is the premier powerhouse in the state of Michigan. You go back to the last decade and their back-to-back state championships under Thomas Wiltshire. And all the success that they had, and not only in the PSL, but in the state playoffs. They have a new head coach now with Marvin Rushing, who's continued the relationship with the Michigan staff, and it's only been expanded thanks to his longtime friendship with like Ron Bellamy and Steve Clarksdale. Rushing has been on the staff since about 2012 and was actually a graduate at Cass Tech back in the 90s. So he actually coached defensive backs. That was most of his primary focus when he was an assistant. And obviously there's that Clarksdale connection, who really made Detroit a priority back when he was at Kentucky and has now blossomed into something greater now that he's up the road. And being that Bellamy was a coach at West Bloomfield, that high school, iron sharpens iron, essentially, with the fact that Bellamy and Rushing coached two of the best high schools in the state, arguably. So yeah, it was great to go out there and get some comments from some of their key players. Unfortunately, when I talked to one of their players, Jalen Thompson, it's looking like Michigan isn't getting an official visit. He actually visited Michigan back in February and had him in his top 10. But I think certain factors like Sean Newell leaving for USC hasn't helped. But no, it's great to talk to Jalen. He's one of the best players in that school, along with another 2023, Kamari Anderson, who's a Cincinnati commit. But yeah, it was great to catch up with Jalen. And then the picture that you have on right now, those four players are all 2025. The one holding the sign on the bottom left, Alex Graham, he's the only one with the Michigan offer. But the one next to him, Cassius Shivers, he's got about 61 offers, so I expect him to get a Michigan offer pretty soon. The two on top, Derek Jackson and Jalen Howell, are really, really key pieces in their defensive back group and wide receivers, and I expect them to be D1 bound at some point. The one wearing number 5, Jalen, Rushing, told me that there's comparisons being made to him with Jordan Lewis, obviously the proud Michigan legacy. That's a big comparison, but there's some comparisons in terms of Jalen's weight, who's about 145, and Jordan Lewis was about 160 when he got to Michigan. They're all really nice guys. They all bond really well. Obviously, they all went to Michigan together for the first time in late April, and they're now all on Michigan's radar. So it was great to get, see the future of what Cass Tech is going to have in a couple of years, even next year, with the year under their belt. No, it was great. It's important to get out and establish with TMBR to get those relationships out with the local schools, because obviously Michigan recruits Detroit so hard, and Cass Tech being one of them. So it was nice to get out there and show your face and get the inside scoop, you'd say.
Those dudes all passed the look test. They look good in the Mason Blue. I can tell that. The offer or not, like all four of them. If you told me they would all end up at Michigan in a couple of years, I would say good. All right. Well, from Detroit, you made your way south into the Buckeye State and South Ohio, which is, the deep South Buckeyes, as some like to call them. So you're down in enemy territory. What was going on down in Cincinnati?
So I got an invite from Darren Gamble, who runs Darren Jr. Recruiting Source. Basically, he's a handler for kids in Cincinnati and Columbus, and sort of like he trains with them, and then he helps them without the recruitment stuff, basically as a go-between themselves and the college personnel. One of his players is a 2024 tight end ranked in the Rivals 250 and is a 4-star named Tayvion Galloway. I've been really high on Galloway. I've seen him 3 times, including Wednesday. 6'5", 230 pounds of lean muscle. Really explosive off the line. Has sticky hands, and is physical enough to create separation from even the most aggressive defensive backs. He and Gamble and Tayvion had a private workout on Wednesday, and I got invited to go down and take some shots and get a couple quotes from each of them. It was nice, though. I really appreciated their time to go out of their way to do that for me. Being that it's probably 5 or 6 hours away, I wouldn't do that for any other recruit. But the fact that it is Tayvion, I had to. I've been high on Tayvion ever since I first saw him in Ohio for an Under Armour camp. It's widely presumed that Michigan is one of the top schools. That's thanks to Grant Newsom's, consistency with staying in touch with Tayvion, getting to know him and his family, getting to know Tayvion off the field, which is a good story in of itself. I mean, Chillicothe, which is where I was at, it's a suburb of Cincinnati. It's not the biggest town, so it's one of those places where like everybody somehow knows everybody. And Tayvion, despite being 16 years old and 2 years left of high school, has really been a pillar of that community, being an example of what it takes to be successful through athletics. And Michigan's done a really good job with making him maybe not just the top priority for the tight end position, but even the whole entire 2024 class. And that has resonated in a good way for Tayvion. There is a couple off the record conversations that I will, abide by, but I'll just say that Michigan is in a good place to land Tayvion. Even though he has 2 years left to high school, he already knows what schools he's interested in, and it might be time, maybe soon, to announce a commitment even this early. I think he knows that well. I think I like Michigan's chances, and one of the reasons why is because it's not so much a reason why, but it really helps that Ohio State hasn't offered, surprisingly. That's despite Ohio State telling him that he's a top player on the board, that he's wanted, that he's a priority, but they're definitely slow playing him. I can compare it to Michigan slow playing Amir Herring over the winter and early spring. It makes no sense, but I think it is going to affect Ohio State in the wrong way by losing out on one of its top players in their own backyard. Chillicothe is probably about an hour away from Columbus, so it just on the horizon, it kind of makes sense for him to go to Ohio State. But there's other schools that are taking advantage of Ohio State slow playing it, and Michigan is one of them. Josh Henschke, our publisher, he said in a board post once that, some of the best players in Michigan that have come out of Ohio are the ones who didn't get Ohio State offers and wanted to stick it to them for 4 years. I don't think Tayvion has that kind of personality where, it's there's a revenge thing. But I think it doesn't hurt. But I think Michigan has definitely done enough job to consider to be a top school, and will hopefully land a home run by getting him early and establishing a 2024 class with a blue chip.
Is that a picture of is it Tayvion Williams?
Galloway, sorry.
Is that the picture of him right up there? Did you take that photo?
I took it, but our staff writer Trevor McHugh is he does fire edits. I am so shocked of what he can do with Photoshop. I just took the photo with him with holding up the M, but he did the rest. No, that was an awesome edit for sure.
He looks like a future Wolverine to me. There's a picture that I also have up on the screen of a running back, and he is from the class of 23. He is from out in Washington, and he's got 4 finalists. One is Oregon from way out there. He's got another Pac-12 school in Arizona. Then he's got Michigan and Notre Dame. 4-star running back, one of the best in the Midwest. And it says here, one of the top running backs in the West. I don't know where I got the in the West, not Midwest. Okay, West. That makes sense since he's from Washington. Any chance here is Michigan's in his Final Four here? Should Michigan be monitoring this situation?
No, this is a Notre Dame lock. It's unfortunate because, Michigan might be looking to add a third running back, and Jayden Limar is an all-around workhorse. He's an all-purpose back. He can go out in the flats. He can be a slot receiver, or he can carry the ball. He did visit Michigan back in September for the Washington game. He works with Sports Performance, which is basically like the sound mind, sound body of the Seattle, Washington area. No, I've been told that he had a great relationship with Mike Hart, but I think this is a Notre Dame lock. There already been future casts, and I've been told the same. So now Michigan will look for other options at running back should they decide to go with a third one in this class.
I'm going to scratch him off the list. All right, from Cass to Cincinnati, you made your way north to the Windy City this week. What was going on in Chicago as far as Michigan recruiting?
Yeah, so Chicago's another Midwest area that's highly prioritized by Michigan in its recruiting. They've had success in recent years with like J.J. McCarthy, Tyler Morris, A.J. Henning, Jimmy Roller, and those guys, and are looking to make that still continue that pipeline. I only had the day, so I had to couldn't see every single one that Michigan is prioritizing, but that just means another trip. That just means another trip for the future. I saw 2 high schools. The first one was St. Ignatius College Prep, which is on the south side of Chicago. And then the second one was Loyola Academy, which is about north of downtown near Evanston in Wilmette. St. Ignatius Prep has arguably the most hype athlete to ever come out of the city of Chicago, and maybe even the state of Illinois. In 2024, 4-star defensive lineman Justin Scott. I talked with him because he had the Michigan offer back in March, and I wanted to get to know him from a personal level and see what the hype was all about. I got there actually at the high school around lunchtime, and there's about 1,500 kids that go to that school, so pretty much all of them had lunch at the same time. But it was so obvious to know who was Justin Scott among all of them. 6'5", a lean 290 pounds, with so much more room to grow should he add more weight, good weight. So I wanted to get his thoughts on Michigan and Mike Elston, and basically how he's been handling all this hype that's been surrounding him. When I asked him if he ever gets compared to anybody, he laughed and he said Jordan Davis, out of Georgia. That might be stretching it a little bit considering he's only a rising sophomore, but that's not to say he can do the same damage that Davis did in Georgia as a 3-tech and a 1-tech. His head coach, who's been coaching at St. Ignatius for a while and throughout Chicago, said there hasn't been a player that he remembers that's had this amount of national attention, especially for a defensive lineman, since Raekwon Williams, who went to Michigan State and then is now with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I see that on film. Just an explosive athlete. Whenever he's on the field, if you look him on his film, it's probably the best 5 minutes of highlights that I've seen out of any recruit. Just a raw physical athlete, explosive off the line, great punch that can blow an offensive lineman back a few yards. You got to double team him to make some sort of impact, because if you don't, then he's just going to go in the backfield. he's the biggest, he's the strongest, and and given that he's nearly 300 pounds, he can move, which, that's why basically all the Big Ten, Notre Dame, Cincinnati, and USC and Tennessee have climbed on board. Mike Elston, Justin told me a funny story about, Mike Elston saying that when he comes on campus, they're going to learn how to make a pesto pasta dish together, which, they have that liking of cooking. I think that Elston is showing a more personal side to him, and I think it's resonated with Scott. He sees him more than just an assistant coach. Sherrone Moore was actually at the school talking with the head coach and Justin the day prior I got there, and which was his second time being at the school this year. And Elston obviously has been there as well. No, they're making him a priority as well. I think they're doing everything. They're doing the right steps in the direction needed to be a contender, and doing what's possible to solidify themselves away from the likes of Notre Dame, that's close by, obviously, and USC, which is so with everything that they've done with Lincoln Riley so far. He's trying to get up to a camp in Ann Arbor in June for one of their camps. This will be his first time that he ends up on campus. He hasn't taken too many visits, and I think it would be a good recruiting win for Justin to just see the facilities, even try on the uniform and get to know Elston on a more personal level once he's up there at Michigan. Even if it's not for a camp, at least for an unofficial, I think that's in the plans for the summer. But no, this is a very, very raw athlete, but this is a very physical and dominating athlete. Like I said, I've never seen a recruit with a highlight package as good as his, and I like where Michigan is doing this early on in the game.
Well, if he makes his way to Ann Arbor, it wouldn't be that far of a drive to come out to Dexter. And this week, I've made 2 times in the slow cooker a pesto chicken. So, I've got that going for myself and for the young man as well. I'm going to quickly put up the Rivals State of Michigan rankings for prospects for this upcoming year. That's 2022. At the top of that list, I'm just going to ask you, you already mentioned Jalen Thompson out of Cass Tech. I'm going to just throw some of these names at you. You give me a sentence on these guys and where Michigan might be standing with them. Dante Moore, number 1, quarterback. I know LSU and Notre Dame and Oregon, but, it's Florida. There's all kinds of schools there. What could you say about Dante Moore?
He's supposed to come visit unofficially later this month, but nobody still knows where he's going. Only he and God knows. So this is going to be a long game.
Cole Cabana, he looks pretty solid with Michigan. He's got a picture with a Michigan hat and Michigan shirt on. You already mentioned Jalen Thompson out of Cass Tech. Where's he go? Is he staying in state? Is he going to Michigan State, or is he going elsewhere?
I think Cincinnati's done a good job. Like I said before, his teammate Kamari Anderson is committed to Cincinnati, and he's done a good job. Kentucky is another one. Pittsburgh is another one. Penn State. I'm missing somebody. It's going to come back to me. But yeah, I like Cincinnati's chances. They've done very well in Detroit, and I think I think they have a good chance.
How about Cole Dellinger out of Clarkston, a offensive guard prospect?
I think his brother goes to LSU, doesn't he? So, yeah, I haven't heard anything regarding him in Michigan. So, no, I think he'd be a loss.
Does Michigan like Amar Snowden at all? He's ranked number 5 by Rivals in state, but I'm not sure Michigan is all that hot and heavy after him. What do you know?
I think there's a baseball factor that's playing into his recruitment. He was going to dual sport in college. He wants to play pitcher in the collegiate level. Most of his offers that he told me are for baseball and football. Michigan has not offered him for baseball or football. Michigan sees him more as a first baseman, which he doesn't prefer. I think if Michigan actually sees him as a pitcher, then maybe. But yeah, Klingstead was there to see him, not yesterday maybe. So I think it's one of those question marks. There's more factors than just football.
All right, one more. Kamari Anderson is listed as number 6 out of Cass Tech. You saw he's a verbal to Cincinnati. Amir Herring, West Bloomfield, an offensive lineman. Is Michigan back in the good graces here? Is there good communication? What do we know about Herring?
Yeah, he took an unofficial visit the day after the Rivals camp in Indy, maybe to mend the fences with what's been happening with his recruitment with Michigan. He told me that it was a really good visit for him and his mom. Sharon Moore laid it all on the table, and I think everything is trending in the right direction. I think if Michigan never slow played him to begin with, I think he'd be a lock to Michigan, but he's going to take other visits, maybe like Nebraska, Missouri, and Boston College, to name a few. No, I like Michigan's chances if everything goes right. If they continue pushing for him, then he'll join his teammate in Smash.
I like it. I liked your work all this week. I know you're not done taking the rest of May off, even though it feels like August right now with the weather outside. You're heading to Philly coming up, next week?
I am. But I didn't mention my second part of the trip to Chicago.
Okay.
Which was to see 2023 defensive line commit Brooks Bahr. Brooks. Him and his teammates were doing a team spring off-season training workouts, going through a gauntlet of conditioning drills. Obviously, no spring football in the Midwest, so you got to find ways to get in shape, but through other ways outside the pads. Brooks is not an easy person to get in touch with over the phone. I wrote about that in the piece yesterday. So it was imperative just to see him live and get his thoughts about everything that's happening since his commitment. I think he's one of the nicest guys that I've ever met. Always had a smile on his face, was willing to talk about everything. It just seemed like he made the right decision for himself. He actually committed about a month after he got the offer from Michigan. So it might have been rushed, but it was a decision that he knew was right for him. He told me about what he wants to do with his career, which is sports management, which is, why he got sold on the Ross Business School. Mike Elston, he found, a good connection with him, who feels like, Elston feels like Brooks can be either 5 tech or 3 tech, depending on how much he grows into his body, come the next level and given the scheme. So there's versatility and there's upside to Brooks's game that can be very versatile for Michigan. He's just one of those guys that you want to root for. Even if he doesn't pan out in college or doesn't make it to the NFL, you just hope that he does good in life. He's just someone that you want to support. And I think that's evident from how much people adore him at his school. His teammates love him. So does the faculty, coaches, even fellow students. But it doesn't get to his head, like he's not a cocky guy. Like, he's just a normal Midwestern teenager that wants to, play football at the next level and will just so happen to do it for free. I like what he was saying about why he committed to Michigan. He was actually supposed to go to Duke. He was supposed to schedule for a Duke visit around the time he committed, but he canceled it because he just thought he wouldn't be genuine when he was over there. And then you just felt like you'd be lying to the coaches, be basically knowing that he wanted to go to Michigan. So with that commitment out of the way, he's actually leading the charge and bringing more recruits to the 2023 class. He's helping Elston and bringing in more guys along that line, including edge rushing. One guy, Joseph Mapoye, he's actually being recruited heavily by Brooks and Elston. Joseph and Brooks actually visited for the spring game together and got really close. They communicate, pretty often since then, and they will both be taking their officials to Michigan on the same weekend of the 17th and 18th. I think Joseph has always been Michigan has always been a contender for Joseph, but it'll help with Brooks being, at the helm, helping with Elston. I think being there together will solidify Michigan's chances. If Joseph commits, and I wrote about this yesterday, it can be a domino effect, maybe, with Nyckoles Harbor, his teammate of Joseph at Archbishop Carroll in D.C., who's a 5-star and slated to be an edge at the next level. Harbor's going to have a top 10 at the end of the weekend at Riles Camp in Philly, and is going to have it, and is guaranteed that Michigan is going to be one of those schools inserted into that list. So without ever really playing a single down for Michigan, Brooks is already making an impact for Michigan, even if it's miles away in Chicago. So it was good to catch up with him and start that relationship.
Brooks Bahr sounds like an easy guy to root for. Let's take a feedback question coming in from Antoine, who says, "What's up with Raylen Wilson? Is Michigan going to recruit this guy? I've seen the guy's recruiting video. He is very good." Raylen Wilson, linebacker, Tallahassee, Florida. What do you know about Wilson, and what's the latest here with the linebacker out of the Sunshine State?
Yeah, I'm surprised he actually committed so early. I wasn't on the beat when he committed, so I've just been following what's been going on. You and Brandon, our senior editor, talked about this on Wednesday, going to take visits to Georgia and Florida, which is right near his backyard. Because he lives in Tallahassee. No, he's a dog. No, he's an SEC prototype linebacker all the way. Michigan, though, has obviously come to see him during the spring evaluation period. George Hilo and Jesse Minter actually came to see him like the first day of the spring eval period. So they're not going to let him walk. But there's so many factors in recruitment, especially with the SEC. You got Georgia, who obviously won the national championship. You got Florida with the resurgence under Billy Napier. So I don't know. I wouldn't say he's wavered, but I would say that Michigan has to do some work in order to keep that commitment locked in. But no, if he does sign, he'd be the top guy of the class, and he would be a on the field contributor as early as freshman year. So this is a must get for Michigan to keep.
Is there anybody else that you would mention? You said Wilson would be the top guy. Are there any 4 or 5 stars that Michigan even has an outside chance with? Anyone that are worth mentioning here on this Friday the 13th?
Oh, Nyckoles Harbor, like I just said.
Yeah.
No, this guy's a freak athlete too. Like, he runs a 10 sub 10 100-millimeter dash in track, and he could probably go to the Olympics if he wanted to. No, this guy is, you could put him anywhere on the field and he'd be an impact, but he'll be more of a stand-up edge rusher at the next level. No, the Michigan has done its work in keeping him a priority. And I think for have his teammate and Joseph to have the same interest, I think is a step in the right direction for Michigan. I would love for Nick to join this class. For everyone that has been on edge about how Michigan's been recruiting this spring and getting anxious about how Ohio State or Notre Dame or anywhere else have been landing all these commitments this spring. I think that would be put to rest if someone like Nyckoles Harbor committed to Michigan. No, I'm following this one very closely. He's, like I said, he's going to be at the Rivals Philly camp, so I'm looking forward to talking with him and getting more perspective on his interests. So it's going to be a good time.
That has got me excited. I'll be monitoring that. For those of you who are not members of the Maize and Blue Review, here's the chance for us to tell you that you should join up, and you can see all of this from Zach when he goes out to Philly. He'll be filing stories left and right. So join the Maize and Blue Review today. It's great if you are a Michigan fan. If you know somebody who is a gigantic Michigan fan, it makes a great present for them. Father's Day around the corner. That would be a real nice Father's Day gift. Michigan.rivals.com. Check that out. Subscribe to YouTube if you're watching the video here. All the other socials there as well, including TikTok, which I'm running. Zach, any final things on recruiting on this Friday the 13th? Lucky Friday the 13th, hopefully.
Yeah. No, I'm home now, but I'm going to be on the road tomorrow out to Philly. So be sure to stay up on social media and follow along. It's going to be a good loaded camp as expected.
That's great. Safe travels. We always appreciate your time, and we all enjoy your work. Take care.